Howdy folks, my name's Zach, you're watching Arclight Miniatures, and today I'm going to take you through the process of how to spice up your PPCs so they can glow bright just like this. So stay tuned because that video is coming to you right now. Alrighty folks, as always, this painting guide is brought to you by Aries Games and Miniatures, as well as Camo Specs Online. Moving into the color choices here, first layer is going to be Royal Purple, which is going to give us a deep richness, followed up by Sotek Green from Citadel. Next color is Temple Guard Blue, which is a really nice bright cyan. This is also from Citadel. And then the final color is a nice rich Arcane Blue from Formula P3. We're also going to be using some Dowler & Rowney FW white artist ink. Firstly, going to thin out the Royal Blue, the Royal Purple, just a little bit. Now I do want to make sure that this color covers the entire inside of the bore all the way up to the rim. Now this color doesn't show through very much, if at all, except for a very tiny little bit that spills out towards the edges. If you notice at the end of the video when we look at the close-ups, it's something that you would not notice otherwise, but once you do see it, it cannot be unseen. It just adds a really good richness to those shaded areas. Now that this is dried, we are going to come in with Sotek Green. I know this is not actually green, it is a turquoise, but I didn't name it, Citadel did, you can take it up with them. I'm essentially going to cover everything that this purple is covering, except the very, very tiniest little bit at the very edge. Next color up is Temple Guard Blue. Going to focus most of the concentration of this into the deepest recesses as well as the very center of the inside of the PPC barrels. I'm just fidgeting here, trying to center off and get everything in focus. Again, just kind of stippling this in. I have thinned this down just slightly, but I do have the airbrush version of this paint that I'm using, so it is already fairly thin out of the bottle. But by all means, you can just use the standard paint. I actually generally like to go for standard paints because they last a little bit longer than airbrush paints, as they aren't quite as thin. But I just happened upon the Temple Guard Blue at my local game store when I was in last and doing a restock. So, airbrush paint it was. As you can see, the brightness is getting a lot brighter. Light reflection is definitely helping a little bit here, but we're going to pump this up even more. Next, I'm taking a little bit of white ink and I'm going to grab some of that Arcane Blue. And as you can see, I'm mixing the two, kind of like 1 part white ink to 2 parts Arcane Blue. That white ink being very highly pigmented is going to really, really brighten this up. The white ink also being very thin is going to thin down that already fairly thin Arcane Blue quite a bit. So I'm going to apply this rather heavy-handedly into the deepest recesses. Not quite as a wash, but almost. And then I'm going to come back in with just a little bit of water on a quickly rinsed out brush. And I'm going to add the water in just to let capillary action kind of blend and thin down everything. I am then taking my brush and kind of coaxing all of this around the edges into that deep corner recess that runs the entire circumference of the inside of that bore. Now once that's nice and even, as you can see here, I let that dry. I'm then going to come back in with that same color with just a little bit of extra white ink added, and I'm going to stipple into the very center, trying to build up that brightness in the very middle. really trying to stay away from the edges at this point. What this does is create a nice bright ring of white around the outside. Then there's a slight dip in brightness value into more of the blue hues, and then right back into that brighter white hue right in the very middle. This really adds a little bit of tonal variation and brightness variation. That's very subtle, but again, helps add to the realism of this glow. Now here, I've simply added in just a little bit more white to that mix, and I am reinforcing the center. So I'm just slowly stepping that blue and white mixture into what is essentially an off-white that is tinted blue. I've now added just a little bit more of the white, and I am reinforcing some of the brightness around the edges. I've thinned this down quite a bit so as to act almost like a bit of a wash, so it should go into those recesses fairly easily. Less is more here. I'm trying to be very ginger and not step on all the other work I did. And we are essentially done. It's looking very good. I like the brightness value. The color hue is still there. It's not completely washed out by the white. This is exactly what we want. Let's take a look at those final photos. There you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you would be so inclined, please share this video with all of your friends. I would like to grow this audience. On that note, if you would like to help support me monetarily, you can head over to my Patreon and support me there. I treat it very much like a tip jar. So if you want to throw some change in my tip jar, please feel free to do so, by all means. Another thanks to Ares Games and Minis, as well as Camo Specs Online, Ares Games and Minis for monetarily supporting this channel, and Camo Specs for just simply having me, love being a part of them. So, as always, best wishes, happy painting, and I bid you adieu, folks. Take care.